Hello, and welcome to the inaugural podcast of Liturgia et Cantus. This is meant to be a podcast about the liturgy and the music of the Catholic Church, particularly the music of the liturgy of the Catholic Church, with a particular focus, of course, on the Roman Rite of the Catholic Church, of which I am a member. Though I may dabble into the Eastern Rite, the Byzantine chant, Byzantine liturgy now and again, but for the most part I will be focusing on the Roman Rite, as well as, in particular, the Divine Office of the Roman Rite, though I will, of course, be talking extensively about the Mass. The Divine Office is an aspect of the Roman liturgy which has been very much neglected in the last 40 years, and in fact neglected for the last 400 years, because even in the 19th century, Dom Guéranger, the great Benedictine author of the great work on the liturgy, the liturgical year, and the great restorer of Gregorian chant, lamented the fact that the faithful had, for many hundreds of years, no longer been assisting at the hours of the Divine Office offered by the monks or the canons within the cathedrals or the local clergy, or that the local clergy had stopped singing the office in common for the people to listen to, or to assist at, I should say. And his work, Restoring the Gregorian Chant, which was then promulgated through the great document Tra la Sollecitudini by Pope St. Pius X, about 60 years later, after the completion of his work, was the beginning of the resurgence of Gregorian chant in the Roman Rite, which had been suffering and slowly dying and almost entirely disappearing for the previous 300 or 400 years because of the Protestant revolt that had really damaged music in the liturgy, partly also because the religious order that was going around converting all of half the world and fighting against the Protestants in a particular way were the Jesuits, who, for all of their good things about them, did not put a high value on singing of the liturgy, in particular singing of the Divine Office. So that really caused a great detriment to that in the Church. And it was, of course, the Benedictines who brought it back, who really preserved it and went back and did all the work, particularly the Slim congregation, started by Dom Guéranger, or refounded by him, I should say. And that was an incredible gift to the Church. In the United States, we were even further blessed because we had the Ward method. It was created by a convert to the Catholic Church who saw this document from Pope St. Pius X and decided that she wanted to implement it into not just in the cathedrals or wherever, but in the average parish. So we saw then this incredible flourishing of Gregorian chant in the average parish life of Catholic churches. Little children singing Gregorian chant. It was really wonderful in those days, because by the 1950s, just about every parish that was able had a parochial school, held children singing in a choir who could sing Gregorian chant. They were raising a generation of people who could sing the Church's liturgy, something that the Roman Rite really has not had for a very long time in a consistent way. Something that, thanks be to God, at least our Eastern brethren in the Byzantine Rite, certainly, and some of the others, have really been careful to keep this tradition of singing the liturgy all the way through throughout their history. In fact, in the Byzantine Rite, if you want to become a priest or even a permanent deacon, your vocation is one of the clear signs that you have a vocation or don't have a vocation is whether or not you can sing. If you can't sing, you probably don't have a vocation to the Byzantine Rite. So they're very, very serious about their singing, and they won't allow any instruments as a part of their liturgy at all. No organ, let alone guitars or anything else. It's entirely focused on singing, using the greatest human instrument, the voice, the one which God made, of course. So this resurgence was wonderful, and it was to the point where not only were children singing Gregorian chant, they were even singing polyphony, which is rather astounding, but it just goes to show anyone can do it. If they can teach little kids in Catholic school in the 1940s and 50s to sing Gregorian chant and polyphony, anyone can do it. Every Catholic can do it. Every Catholic can sing. Every person can sing. Yes, not everyone is going to be recording records tomorrow. Certainly not. The vast majority of people won't. But living in this toxic American Idol world that we live in, where if you're not pitch perfect at every point, and you can't sing like Celine Dion, it's as if you should never sing ever. You should never open your mouth and sing, which is extremely unhealthy. We need music. Not just to listen to music, but we need to make music ourselves, whether it be through singing it or playing it on the various instruments, but especially I think singing is the most important, because although with making any kind of making music, but most of all with singing, it allows you to get your emotions out in an ordered and even fashion. There's so much anxiety and trouble and mental illness in the world today. And a lot of that, I believe, and those I've spoken with and heard speak much holier than I, believe the same, that much of that is due to the lack of music being suppressed in the West on an entire societal scale, where no one's allowed to sing anymore. No one's allowed to make music unless you're amazing, and then it's accepted. But you're not allowed to do it if you're never going to be perfect at it. But that's just so wrong. Everyone can sing. You might not be able to sing perfectly. You might not even be able to sing that well. It may be that you're pitch perfect, but your tonal quality isn't very good. But that's okay. The important thing is that you make music, and that you get your emotions out in an ordered fashion in that way, and in the liturgy in a very special way. We just had Holy Week last week, of course, and the chants of Holy Week are the most expressive of the entire liturgical year. The sorrow that one feels when listening to the lamentations of Jeremiah sung during Tenebrae, during Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday. It's just so moving and powerful that one cannot not help but feel that sorrow, that sadness that is associated with the Passion of our Lord. Certainly, especially Good Friday morning and Holy Saturday morning, just really entering into the liturgy in a very special way. But I'll talk more about this, of course, in the future of this blog. This is the purpose of this blog, to talk about these kinds of things, about the music and liturgy and how important music and liturgy is. Particularly, of course, in the Divine Office, which is even traditional Catholics, quote-unquote, are only generally really aware of the traditional Mass, not so much the office, and many are, not so lucky even to have the traditional Mass sung properly in its full breadth. I'm lucky we're in the diocese that I live in, that I'm able to experience the full singing of the liturgy every Sunday. In East and West. So I really have been able to get, and because I spent 2 years with a religious community, I also got to see the full traditional Roman liturgy throughout the entire liturgical year for 2 years, sung properly, and I sang it myself for the most part. So I come from experience, and that is an experience that I hope to share with you through explanations of all these sorts of things and discussions of these sorts of things, but also some singing. I hope to, in my own poor way, share with you the Church's music of the Church's liturgy with some of my own singing, because, of course, that's the easiest way to do it without causing any kind of copyright violations. And hopefully I'll be able to share some other things. Maybe if I can get some of my friends more musical than I into the act, can help out and maybe do some really great stuff with this podcast. So I hope this is something that can be fruitful for you and for your own spiritual life. And if you have any questions or any particular topics you'd like me to address in this podcast, feel free to contact me. I'd be happy to do that. What I'll be doing in the upcoming days, first of all, I want to talk about the Divine Office, what it is. Then I want to look at particularly at one part of the Divine Office called Compline. That is a particular favorite of mine. And then I think after that I will be talking about the Requiem Mass. Again, a great treasure of the Church that has been lost in the new rite of Mass. But the chants in that mimic, in a lot of ways, the chants of Holy Week in a sort of microcosm of Holy Week, in the sorrow and sadness. And it has some of the most beautiful chants in the whole Church's, liturgy, apart from Holy Week. So I think that will be a good place to start. So I will go ahead and wrap up this podcast today, and I will hopefully see you back for my future podcasts. God bless you. Ave Maria.